Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ideas Sin. My name is Denise, and I'm your hostess with the mostest, like always. And I am here with Pat today. Hi, Pat. How's it going?
Good. I'm so glad to be here with you,
Yeah,
Denise.
likewise. I'm so glad that we finally got a chance to hop on a podcast, considering that we met through a podcasting class, right?
I know. How cool is this? I mean, really.
Yeah. So what got you into the podcasting class? Because that was last year, right? Or 2023?
Yeah, it was. Was it 22 or 23? No, ended 22, ended September or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, it was a while back, but we've still been in touch.
I know, right?
Well, that year I had retired, and people always say, "What are you going to do when you retire?" And a friend of mine told me, "You got to start a podcast because I have stories to tell just through life after." 7 decades, you start, getting a background of silly things or interesting things or not so good things that have happened in your life. And, they make stories. So that's why I signed up for a podcast class. And I had heard about the instructor we had through a friend of mine that had done a podcast with her. So, yeah. So that was like, oh, okay, the intro into it. And, I had just gotten back. I think our podcast was like Saturday, Sunday all day. And I had got back from a 2-week RV trip that Thursday. So I was still recuperating from that and going, I just want to lay in bed for the weekend, and chill. And it was podcast class time. So that's how I got there and was fortunate enough to meet you and Jen and Lee and Jessica and the other folks that we've stayed in touch with. So that's so cool.
Yeah, I know. And you have a lot of stories to share. I feel like every time we chat, there's always something really cool that you've experienced in your life. And so, I mean, have you gotten a chance to start up your podcast or?
No. And the reason being a few things in life have gotten in my way. And I decided after the class and all the technology and that knowledge needed that I wanted to find somebody to partner with or do it with or help with and that sort of thing. And my friend of mine that told me to do this, she said, just record on YouTube or whatever and put them out there. And then I learned that's not the way this really works, So it's a lot more to it than I had thought about originally. So I'm just I'm keeping my eyes and ears open, and I ask people along the way, hey, do you know somebody? I volunteer at PBS. Mm-hmm. And so I've asked folks there, do you know someone that does podcasting on the side that could, help me get going, or be another person that I talked to about it who has, it's not a podcast, but TikTok. Oh, okay. And he said that he thought it would be good in my case for what I'd like to do is to have someone there that knows a little bit about my stories and then ask me questions and take it from there, because they always go a different direction. I start talking about one thing and then go, oh, but wait a minute, that's another story. Yep. Hang on to that thought. Yeah. So I still want to do it and I'm working on it, but it's been, put on the back burner for me. But I've enjoyed now coming on your podcast, and then I did Jen's, and then Jessica has helped with the sound and stuff on the ones I did a couple for my podcast with Jen, another lady in our class. So I have things in the can, as they say.
Yeah.
Just have to get them out there.
It's much more in-depth than people think. They're like, just record on this and you upload it. And it's like, no, there's a lot more to it than you think. Like, you have to learn what the accepted audio levels are per platform that you decide to release things on. And there's accepted levels in Apple and in Spotify, and then even in YouTube, like learning to upload certain type of videos and the quality and all this stuff. like there's a lot more to it than just, oh yeah, just upload it. Like you can upload it, but it doesn't mean it's going to come out well,
Yeah.
that people are going to hear it.
Or that,
You know?
yeah, they'll accept it. And then they need to be edited,
Yep.
like Jessica's helped with and stuff. So, or you want background music or signage or whatever. And it was just like, okay, well, this sounds like fun, but there's a lot of work, background work for sure.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you inviting
Oh
me
my
on.
gosh, yeah, of course. I've wanted to invite you for like so I was like, wait, why? I thought like in my head I registered like, oh yeah, I've seen Pat. I've hung out with her like a bunch of times. I'm like, oh yeah, like in my head for some reason I felt like you were already like in this cuz what I ended up doing was
Mm-hmm.
also just like pre-recording a lot before I even launched. And then this way, like once it came to launch time, I would just have these episodes lined up. And then on a week to week, I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of intuitively think of like, or intuitively feel like I think this is the conversation that needs to be released this week. So for some reason, I thought you were like already in the mix. But regardless of that, I'm really happy that you're here because like, I think you have such an interesting life and I think it is worth hearing. And I'm more than happy to like, link up with you at any time and help kind of share my process of what it is that I've gone
Mm-hmm.
through to kind of put things together because it's a lot and a lot of it is just like shooting in the dark and hoping you
Right.
hit
Until you
something,
get it. Yeah. Well, and that's how life is. When you pick up new hobbies or jobs or whatever along your life, you have to learn new, like riding a bicycle is the way I always relate things. I've taught people different things in jobs and in sports. And I always relate it back to, well, remember when you rode a bicycle, you fell off a
Yeah.
lot.
Yep. Exactly.
Get rid of the training wheels.
Yeah. And have you ever done anything like podcasting before or
Well, I have been fortunate for me. Obviously, I'm talking about me,
Mhm.
but I've done a lot of TV and radio in the last 16 years, every 4 years, for curling, the sport on ice where they throw rocks at houses and sweep and
Yeah.
this sort of thing. Not a lot of people know about it because you usually just see it in the Olympics. But I was fortunate enough that I learned to curl here in Austin. It was right when the club started in like '08,
Oh,
'07, around that time. So a long time ago. And so every 4 years, the radio people and TV people, sports people would get interested. Oh, what's this silly sport on ice with the rocks and the brooms and they're yelling,
yeah.
screaming at each other and all that. So I volunteered to go to go out there because at that time nobody else wanted to, and so I got a lot of background and a lot of interesting comments from the radio announcers or the TV folks on, your voice is good, you speak well, it's fun to listen to you tell about curling and so on. So that kind of got me thinking about the podcast situation, like, well, my friends all the time are saying, your stories are interesting. They're not like all these great, wonderful things. They're little things here and there, or things I took a chance on and they worked or they didn't.
Mhm.
But it's just fun to tell the stories and they like listening to them. So that's why I really want to tune in on the podcast side of it.
Yeah. And what was that like working in like radio and TV in that regard? Because I think prior to recording, I don't know if we mentioned it right now, but you would have to go live. So what is that like?
Right.
Because I hear obviously we can edit out whatever we want or don't want. And so what is
Right.
that like when you're live?
Okay, so let me back up one more
Yeah.
moment. For 13 years, I was a flight attendant for an airline and flew international, and I made announcements
Mm.
all the time, which were obviously live.
Yeah.
At that time, I shouldn't say obviously, because now they're all recorded,
Yeah.
and they just play a recording of, welcome you on board or emergency exits or any of that type of. So I had learned from that experience the speaking part of it and being in front of people and that sort of thing. So fast forward, radio is definitely live. You walk into the room where the DJs are. And in my instance, I went on a rock and roll station and a country station, both very popular here in Austin. And there's 3 or 4 of the DJs in there. And you don't know if they're recording or not at that moment. Because one I went into, there were introductions and they were doing commercials and they said, we're going to talk about this, this, and that and move on. The other one, I walked in thinking the same setup and I was live on air. They said, hey, Pat Popovich, how are you today? And I go, oh, good. How you got, so I was very relaxed on that one, not knowing that it was on already on air. And so that was a little different, but they make you feel very comfortable. I mean, I felt comfortable with them and talking about, and I love curling. So it's easy for me to talk about the sport. And then I always take a rock, they weigh 42 pounds, with me and a broom. And at the country station, they had a frozen turkey that we put on a Frisbee and pushed down the hallway while they were pretending sweeping. So they really made it fun. So they make videos and stuff like that. Now on the TV stations, it all depends. Some of them would be live, like at 6:30 or 7:15 in the morning, and the interviewer would say, "Okay, they're hooked up in their ear. We're going to go live now," and we have an idea what we're going to talk about. So that's always like, "Okay, here we go," but it's only 2 minutes or whatever it may be, and I have taught them how to curl, throw a rock, and sweep. So the camera person's on them all the time and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. And other times they film a lot and cut it and splice it. And then they've shown them over the years too, because people will come up, Pat, I saw you on TV again. And I said, well, I didn't even go to that station this year. And they keep them in the archives and show them again. So yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I do enjoy it. So
yeah, that's really cool how it's like kind of coming around full circle. And even with curling, like I've done curling, I think maybe once when I was in Canada, and it is really interesting being a sweeper. You're like, it's like a workout in and of itself. Fun. But like, what even got you into that? Because it's a very unique sport, especially here in Texas. So like, what attracted you to that versus some of the other more popular sports around?
Well, and that was an interesting story. I just fell into it, really. It was December. In fact, it was Christmas Day of that year of 2007, 2008, right in there, December. I was reading the Sunday paper, and Christmas was on a Sunday that year. And I love sports, so I always go to the sports page. And on the bottom half of the front page of the sports section was a headline, "Would you like to learn to curl?" And it showed a local person on the ice throwing a rock at the house. Those are terminologies from curling. And I looked at that and I thought, well, that's interesting. I read the article. And I thought, well, I'm really good at bowling. I bowled since I was a little kid. So, and I'm good at aiming. So I can aim an object at a target and pretty much show up to the game. So I got the phone number to call from the end of the article. In fact, I still have the article. And went out to learn to curl. Back up a little bit. I lived in Vermont for 6 years before I moved here to Austin. And I was deathly afraid of ice because I stepped out on it a couple times and fell, So I thought, do I really want to go run around on ice? And they assured me on curling ice isn't like the ice out on your sidewalk or driveway or whatever. They do pebbling on it, which is they go over it with a shower head with warm water, and it puts pebbles on the ice like the back of your knuckles on your hand. So it gives it elevation a little bit. It's just not flat ice like hockey uses or ice skaters use, that sort of thing. And then you wear tennis shoes for beginners, and they're rubber, and so they don't slip and slide as much on the ice. And then you have a broom, which you hold for stability. So you get your legs under you when you first walk out there, and you really don't fall all over the place, which is people think that curlers wear ice skates because they've only seen people with ice skates on ice skaters and hockey players. We wear tennis shoes or curling shoes, which are similar to a bowling shoe, but that's too much information right now. So anyway, I got out there and was scared to death, but wanted to try it. And I wasn't graceful by any means. And, but I was able to get the rock to the house. And they were all like going, "Oh, that's so good. You got the rock down there and this, that." And so I was hooked. And I haven't stopped curling since I went to that Learn to Curl, because it's just fun. It's a whole lot of fun out there. And here in Austin or anywhere in Texas, because Houston has a curling club, Dallas has a curling club, and they've been around longer than the curling club here in Austin. And so we have tournaments with each other and stuff, and we curl all year long. Well, up in the northern states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, anywhere up where it snows, they quit in the summertime because they're done with the cold and the snow and the ice and all that. So anyway, it's really interesting, a lot of fun. I've curled with Olympians. I've curled in Canada and in Wisconsin and Arizona. You travel around and do that. So I've made a lot of good friends, and just to meet Olympians was amazing for me. And then to curl with them and against them. What sport can you, other than maybe tennis or something, Olympic sport, that a novice can go out there and be a part of the game. Of course, they're not playing at their Olympic level, but still, it was pretty awesome. Yeah. And that was a lot of, every 4 years, we'd have a different Olympian come to Austin to curl, and then they would also be on the news sometimes with us, not every time. But the team that won the gold medals, we had the player from that team here. And we also had an interview with the captain of that team, and pictures with the gold medal.
Oh, that is cool. Awesome.
To hold an Olympic gold medal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in curling,
Yeah. So. How big are the teams?
4 people, and you have a captain, which in curling we call a skip. And then the third player is called the vice skip, and the second is called the second. And the lead player is the first of the lead. So everybody throws 2 rocks. They're different colors. We have red and yellow rocks, and you play a team with 4 people also. They throw the other color rock. And it's sort of like shuffleboard, if, to understand how the game is played. And it's also been called chess on ice, because it's how you put up guards and takeouts and there's a lot of strategy to curling. So not only are you getting a good exercise, you have to think a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We curl here at, it's called The Pond. It's a hockey rink. It's down at 183 in Burnett, right next to Austin Beer Works. Oh. So you can curl and then walk right over and have a beer and chips. It's also.
That's awesome. And so is the court really big? Or what's like the sizing for curling?
Well, it's the size of a hockey rink. The sheet of ice for hockey. It's 150 feet from where you throw the rock to the house on the other end. So it's about the length of a bowling lane from where you release a bowling ball to where the pins are, to just give you an idea of the distance to relate to something. So what we call on the ice, in bowling, it's a lane. where you bowl on a lane. In hockey, you curl on in curling, you curl on a sheet. So on the hockey ice, we have 4 sheets. So we can have 8 teams at one time out there curling next to each other here in Austin.
Yeah. So is it? I'm trying to think of like the team dynamics. When you're playing, is it kind of like hockey in the sense that you're actually like everybody is playing one game at a time, or is it like a solo match and everybody's like on a team, but everybody kind of has their own specific matches being played?
Correct. The second part that you said, we curl like you would in a bowling league. You'd have your teams on one lane or 2 lanes on a bowling league. Anyway, you rotate those lanes with each other. In curling, you stay on your sheet of ice and play the other 4 people that you've been assigned to play against, while the other 3 games are simultaneously happening on the other 3 sheets of ice. So there's a lot of yelling because in curling, the skip or the captain is holding a broom at the far end of the ice from where you're throwing it. And that's where you aim. Where like in bowling, you aim at the pins, whichever ones happen to be up, or if you want to strike. So because a curling sheet of ice, when they play hockey and ice skate, isn't flat, okay? It's not, it undulates up, down, and side to side, sort of like a green in golf. They're not flat. They roll around and they aim at a different spot and the ball goes to the hole in golf. So in curling, the ice isn't flat. So you aim at one spot, but the rock will end up at a totally different spot because of the way the ice is. It's called arena ice. Now, if you live in Wisconsin or Minnesota or Canada or Scotland, that's where it started in Scotland, you have dedicated ice. And only curling is done on that ice. So it is level. Like that's Olympic ice. So it's really interesting when people come to curl, they think it's super easy because all they've seen are Olympians, the perfection of the perfection. They haven't seen junior leagues or, anything like that where people are learning how to curl. They see the best from around the world or within the United States championships. So they make it look simple.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're just perfection. So people come to a learn to curl and they go, oh, I got this, no problem. I just slide out and, no, it's not that way. But it's fun. I mean, you learn a lot along the way. And when people are sweeping and the skip is yelling whether they should sweep or not sweep, because it depends how fast the rock's going. If it's going really fast, you don't have to sweep it. If the thrower didn't put enough oomph behind the throw of the rock, then you have to sweep it, because the sweeping helps the rock go further, not faster, just further down the ice. And it removes debris like hair or fibers from your clothing or something that would stop the rock on the ice. That's the sweeping. It flattens that pebble I told you about, so it makes it smoother. And but because of physics, which I can't explain to you at all.
That's okay. I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, that's not part of my instruction. Is because of physics, if there wasn't the pebble on the ice, the rocks wouldn't go at all. Would they just stop? So it raises them up so they can glide along. So I see, once you get me started talking about curling, I'll give you way more information.
No, I think it's great because I don't think like I'm familiar with curling. So I have like, so for me, and I play a lot of sports as well. And so I'm able to kind of tie it to the different sports and things that I've seen or play and this and that. So, but I think
Right.
it's still great to learn about this because I don't think there are people who even know what curling is or that it's an option to play.
Right, that they can do it here in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And once they get out there, the other thing is it's any age.
Mhm.
Okay, we've had families sign up, parents and their kids,
Oh,
or even grown adult kids and their grandparents, because you don't pick up the rock. It weighs 42 pounds. Sorry, I'm looking at my dog. It weighs 42 pounds, but you don't pick it up to
yeah.
throw it. It stays on the ice and you do a lunge, a slide, without getting into all that. So we have families right now, a team of a mom and dad and a son and daughter. And the son is 11 and the daughter's 8 or 9, and so they can slide out and they can get enough energy from their legs. It doesn't come from your
Yeah.
arms. Your energy to throw the rock, even though we use the word throw, we're really pushing
Yeah.
it down the ice, is from your leg. And you start in what's called a hack, which is like a starting blocks for a
Mm.
runner, so you can get that momentum forward.
Mhm.
And like I said, without getting into real specifics, so children that can play, adults obviously can play. You don't have to have great balance, like I was
Yeah.
explaining earlier. And then people, as they age or they get a back problem or a knee problem, we have a telescopic stick that you stand up straight and you hook the stick to the end of the rock and you walk and push
Mm.
it. So you don't have to get down and do the lunge slide part of it.
Yeah.
So now all your viewers can go into Google and Google
Yeah.
curling, but amateurs. Don't watch the Olympians.
I know. No, it is true. I think anything that we watch, we're always seeing professionals and we're always
Yeah.
learning and we're always like, oh, they make it look so easy. I can go do that. But then as soon
Yeah.
as you actually start doing it, it's a totally different story
Mm-hmm.
because they've mastered the
Mm-hmm.
foundational techniques. Like a lot of us are not really mastering foundational techniques unless we're dedicating a lot of time into that activity.
Right.
So I totally
Right.
understand where you're coming from. And I really appreciate that curling is so accessible. You know? Like,
Yes.
I didn't think that
Yes.
they had the stick where you can push it, so that really makes it, like, for any age, and it's, like, the first
Right.
activity that I've heard of anyway that you can involve, like, all age groups, and, like, that's really
Mm-hmm.
cool that you could be like, "Oh, yeah," you don't have to be of a certain, I'm assuming, like, physical level to actually do this, like,
No. No.
that's awesome.
No. No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's another thing, because people are watching Olympians, they're watching fit people do the sport, even though uh, curling is in the Paralympics. We have
Oh, okay.
wheelchair curlers also in the Olympics. And we did have a Olympic wheelchair curler that lived in San Antonio that would drive here to curl
Cool.
with us because they don't have curling there. But side note, so yeah, it's very accessible regardless of your age. You just have to have the ability that your legs can push a 42-pound
Mhm.
rock, but you get help with that, with the ice. And then as you age, or if you hurt your back or whatever, you can use a stick and walk and let it go. You still sweep, but yeah, yeah, it really is all age groups. And it's good to have families come out and do it together. They have a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so good. That's a
You
nice
know.
bonding activity. Yeah. So long as they all
Yes.
wanna do it. I mean, if
Yeah.
some kids are, like, forced into it, it's like, "Ah,
Oh,
mom, I don't wanna." But
yeah, well, and we've had some where the parents bring them and drop them off, and it takes 2.5 hours for a
oh, okay.
match. A curling match takes 2.5 hours, and then the parents will leave and come back later and pick up their
Mhm.
child. We have a couple that do that, and we also have nighttime leagues and a Sunday morning
Mhm.
daytime league, so it can fit into people's schedules. But yeah. If you want to watch, I think on our website, the LoneStarCurlingClub.org, they may have some videos there, but also if you Google Pat Popovich curling, there's some of the older videos I've done are out there too, just explaining what basically I'm explaining to you now.
Yeah, I'm going to add a note to that. Lone Star Curling, right? Yeah.
And you can sign up there for Learn to Curls. We have a lot of Learn to Curls. I've instructed for years, and every now and then I'll still go out and help them instruct. But yeah, it's just a lot. And a lot of corporate events.
Oh, really?
Team building events.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that also, or birthday parties. I mean, your friends and stuff or your coworkers, they have to want to do a sport. But if you get, even if they don't, they can sit up above and have pizza and beer.
or spectators, you got this, sweet partner.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, what do you think are some of the challenges that people experience once they're first getting into the game?
Well, there's a big learning curve like any sport, and especially the strategy in curling, because the rocks, you want them in play. So you need to get them down there, and you don't want to get them through the house. So it's called the weight. That's the amount of push you put on the rock, the weight of it. So some need to be guard, some need to be takeout, whatever. So you learn this fine tuning of each situation is a little different. And the longer the match is 8 ins, and think of an inning in baseball. Each team, gets an at-bat, gets a chance to throw the rocks. So you have 8 of those, takes 2.5 hours. And so you have to learn all the finer ideas of the strategy. And as you play, the ice gets faster, the pebble gets flatter, the rocks get colder. So it's always changing on you during the game. So you have to adjust. A lot of adjusting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it really is fun. And we have a good time at the Lone Star Curling Club. And, with the people that are there, all ages, men, women, kids, like I said, not kids necessarily at night. And sometimes afterwards, the night curling leagues, they stay and have what's called broom stacking. Broom stacking is whatever team won has to buy the losing team a drink, whatever it may be, whatever they care to have. We don't have a bar at our curling rink, but they have people will bring stuff, and then share it. And so there's camaraderie is what I'm getting at. After a match, you can sit and gather with each other. It's cold in the curling rink, so you need to dress appropriately to be out on the ice. But we also have a warm room where spectators can go in the warm room, and they don't have to be all bundled up and still watch the matches.
Is it cold enough that you're wearing gloves and like a hat?
I do. Yeah, I wear gloves. Some people wear hats. I don't. I'll wear a baseball cap, but some people wear knit caps. Some people we have wear bicycle helmets, just for protection. So there's all levels. It's in the summertime, a lot of people curl in shorts because it's so darn hot outside. It's still freezing because you got to make ice, inside. But all kinds of attire. And because of the sweeping, and this is what new curlers don't get right away, obviously, from watching TV because they're not there. You work up a sweat because you're going 0 to 60 really fast. You're sweeping hard. You're not running, you're jogging on the ice, but you're putting a lot of your body weight, your shoulders, your arms, your legs into the broom head to melt
Yeah.
ice. So you're just not cleaning the kitchen.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's a good workout.
Yeah. So then, so does it kind of rotate? So as you have the one person that's throwing,
yes.
like, do you guys go in a cycle? Like, let's say you just threw. Do you then switch with the sweeper and then you sweep next for the next person's throw, and then there's like somebody else who takes the lead, or I don't know. I don't know how that works,
Yes.
but
No, you're almost there. You got it. So the lead of each team, you throw a yellow rock, then they throw a red rock. You throw another yellow rock. Everybody throws two. They throw another red rock. Then those two people that are called lead, they go out and become sweepers. And the number two person comes back and you repeat that double rock throwing. And then that person, so number one is out there sweeping, number two goes out there and takes the place of the vice skip, which is the third person on the team. And that person then throws their two rocks on each team. Then the vice skip goes up and takes the place of the captain, the skip, to hold the broom, to aim, to have something to aim at. So the better curlers are your skip and vice skip, because the first two curlers need to do their job, get their rocks in play, and typically put up guards, guarding the house, because the scoring is whoever gets closer to the center of the house, which I can get into that in a minute. It scores for points and it's like a baseball score, one or two. It can be more, but rarely. So then you want your third person to be a good takeout person, because if any rocks got in the house, they throw to get them out, kick the opponent team rocks out. And then you want your skip has to be perfection and then get their rock in there closer than the opponent's rock to score. So that's how the different levels of the throwers, the team members, go. So it rotates. Okay. The only person that doesn't sweep is the skip.
Oh.
The captain, because they're standing up there holding the broom for the first three curlers. And then, they may sweep a rock out of the house, but they never sweep along the sheet of ice.
Okay. Yeah.
But you had it. It's a rotating circle, and so you can't say, well, I don't want to sweep. Well, you could, but your team isn't gonna like you can say that, but you can't just throw.
Yeah. So that's good to know. So you end up really balancing all of those skill sets. Like you get to rotate and really practice all of them. So it's not just segmented and, unbalanced in that way. Yeah. So people who are totally new, if they go in, do you find that they can typically pick everything up by the end of the season? Like, and they get the gist of it, or?
Yes. And one of when I have new curlers, like you had mentioned a minute ago, you do other sports. I will ask each one, do you play other sports? So I kind of have their feel and knowledge and that and want and need for curling. A lot of people, it's on their bucket list. They just came out to check it off because it's a weird, fun sport and it's on ice and you're in Austin and, we get that. We get that, So, it depends on their thought process for sport and competition and learning a new skill set. We're not totally competitive, but as in any sport, you would want to improve your skills along the way, and some improve faster than others, like any sport. I play a lot of sports too. I play volleyball, bowling, darts, aiming. I'm really like to aim, but right now my aim is off, so I have to work on that. Curling, but I think that's because I need cataract
Oh my
surgery or
goodness.
something. So
Oh.
it's like, oh, one eye's a little crooked here, but
That's okay. Just start aiming. Just like, yeah,
yeah,
just close your
right,
one eye.
aiming to the
Yeah.
right. Yeah, close one eye. Yeah, use the better eye. Yeah, yeah. That's my excuse anyway. Right.
But that's great that you've done a
Oh,
lot of other sports. I mean, as I get to know you, like you've had so many different interests. And I think that's also why we've connected very well because like I also have a ton of diverse interests. And, another interest that
mhm.
you've had was always music and going to live shows and checking out different
Yes.
bands and traveling and things like that. So, I mean, even with music, how do you think that that's tied into your life and the kind of interest that you've
Well,
gotten?
the
I was gonna
Lucy's
say, yeah.
barking again. Um, I lucked out. Well, I got a job as a contractor at Fender Musical Instruments in Scottsdale,
Mm.
Arizona. So you're talking
Yeah.
music, right? There we go. That's where they make the amps and the guitars and
Yeah.
all this stuff. I was ended up being hired and worked there for a few years, and because of that, this is sort of a story I'm going to tell you. Not the whole journey of it, but where it started and where it stopped, we could fill in another time if needed. I met musicians. I worked in the amp department, and they would come test out the new amps and stuff. So I got to meet musicians. So I met this one fella that had country hits at the time. His name is Leroy Parnell, and we would get to the Fender people get to go to the concerts and have a special area to sit and go backstage and all that fun stuff. So I had moved to Vermont, but kept in touch with Leroy, and he had a lot of concerts and stuff back there, and I'd go around and get to see him and kept in touch. Well, after 5 years in Vermont, the snow got to me,
Mm,
and I thought I got to move
yeah.
somewhere. And so I was talking to Leroy one day about it, and he said, "Well, you should go to Texas." I was coming to San Antonio just to visit for a vacation. And he said, "Well, drive up to Austin. My brother, Rob Roy Parnell, plays at Antone's up there. And go see him and tell him I said hi and all this." So I did. I went to
Yeah.
my vacation in San Antonio, rented a car, drove up to
Yeah.
Austin, went to Antone's. This was like 20 years
Mm,
ago, a little over that, and met Rob and ended up moving. That's how I moved here to
mm,
Austin. It didn't snow. I didn't know
mm.
anybody, and I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
So, that was like, I'll work on that part after I get here.
Yeah.
And I ended up being a roadie for Rob for five
Oh,
years.
cool.
So through that first job as a
Mhm.
contractor, meeting a person and meeting a person and moving and then meeting more people. I mean, then the music thing, I got to know quite a few local Austin artists and go to different blues festivals and things within Texas. And, so that's how that sort of all came and how I got to Austin. And when I had driven up from San Antonio, I got to Antone's early, and I was talking to a couple people that were friends of
Mhm.
Rob's and the bartender. And so I was saying, yeah, I live in Vermont, and I was thinking moving to San Antonio, but I'm here in Austin because of Leroy and Rob, blah, blah, blah. And they go, "Oh, well, you have to move here now. You have friends in Austin."
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool how that worked out. But yeah, I love concerts and music, and back when I was in high school, I got to see a lot of the great bands, Jimi
Yeah.
Hendrix, Mamas and the Papas, and all that stuff at the Hollywood Bowl. And I've always loved music and been part of it that way. So the Doors,
Oh,
before
yeah.
they were just in a small, venue, and yeah, yeah, it's cool
Yeah.
stuff.
And it must be
Yes.
amazing to see where they started and where they ended up.
Oh, absolutely. Because at that time, most of them didn't get very far because,
Mhm.
their life was taken away from them. So that was super
Yeah.
sad. But I was also fortunate enough to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland when Ringo Starr was inducted. I just saw a poster I have over
Yeah.
here, and so Paul McCartney was there for that, and it was just like, all right, I got to see Beatles. Yeah.
It's so
Life is
cool.
good. I saw Beatles and Olympians.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, and so I'm gonna take it back a little bit to, like, when you were working as a roadie, you said, right? So
Yeah,
what
yep,
what does that
yep.
even mean? Like, what do you do as a roadie?
Well, what I did for Rob, I helped with the gear. You know, I'd help them get their gear in and get the cables and stuff hooked up, and then I worked the uh, just lost the word. You know, their CDs and T-shirts and
Oh, like the
the sale
merchandising
of
and
the
yeah.
merch. Yeah, all the merch and stuff. And you could all, you know, you got a better seat at the table
Yeah,
too.
you did.
You know, because you know, and then get to meet the interesting folks that were there because he played all around Austin and Green Hall and Texas and like I said, different blues festivals and things, Kerrville, and it was just fun to go out and do it. And got to ride on the bus, you know, get on the go up north, have your little bunk bed in the bus,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just an interesting angle to take. And I enjoy people. I enjoy being out and talking to people and doing those sort of things. And I didn't have it, you know, any reason not to go along. And yeah, it was just a great
Yeah.
time, you know, just interesting. But just the schleppy stuff, you know, just
Schleppy
help out
stuff.
with whatever need. Count the tip
Yeah,
jar.
right?
Yeah. Count the tip jar. Hand out the
Yeah.
tips.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
And actually one of those things that I think about is, yeah, there's so much of that you have to do that people don't think about, that is a job that's available to folks. And I'm thinking about it, and there are still artists that go and they tour on buses, right? Like, they're not always necessarily
Yeah.
flying. So, what is that like
Oh, yeah.
living on a bus with other artists that you might not even be close to? It's almost like an RV trip, but, like, you're not you probably eventually get
Right.
close to people over time, but, like, if you're not and you're just starting to work with them for the first time, like, what is that like?
Well, the trips I went on were over a
Okay.
weekend. So we weren't on long, you know, long haul trips or for the whole summer or something
Mhm.
like that. And it is interesting because you sleep in bunk beds, you
Yeah.
know, you know, they have it all set up. And usually the artist or the lead singer, whoever it may be, is in the back of the bus with the, you know, the private
Mhm.
room and restroom and that sort of thing. And the driver's just driving all night long while everyone's sleeping. And so you never know what when the sun is going to be when you get where you're going, you know, if it's going to not be up yet or up, and what you're going to eat and those sort of things. Now a lot of times with Rob, we'd go for weekend trips and he had a van and we'd stay at a
Yeah.
motel, you know, we'd eat and you know we'd do it that way and ride in the van, and we'd stop at the gas station and everybody knew.
Yeah.
I know what you want. You pump the gas, you wash the
Yeah.
windows. You know, everybody had a specific job. So it's different. It's fun. That's what I like about life in general is doing things that are different and fun
Yeah.
and just I love the saying, the logo for just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Whatever it is, just do it. Just try it. Just do it. Just go for it. You know.
Yeah.
So that's
That's
yeah. But that is Nike, isn't it?
yeah.
I think it's Nike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I have to think
Just
about it
do
too.
it.
Every once in a while, I, like, disconnect from society and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, what
Right.
advertising are you gonna see?"
Yeah,
Branding
just
is
that one. Just but yeah, the logo. Yeah, but that is Nike, isn't it?
yeah,
I don't
right?
know, but yeah,
I mean,
just go out there and experience stuff.
yeah, and I mean, like, for you, um, do you think that there's anything that you haven't done in your life that you're like, "Man, I really wish that I did that?"
No, I mean, I'm always looking because I didn't know anything about curling. I didn't even know that
Like
was
a thing, yeah.
available to do, to, a thing, and or being a roadie. I didn't know that was going to show up in my life. The one thing, and I won't dwell on this one right now, but the one thing I never thought I could do, and I always wanted to do since I was a little
Hmm.
kid, is fly an
Oh,
airplane.
yeah. Is that you? Oh my
Yeah, that's
goodness.
me
I
after
love
I
that.
soloed flying an
It's
airplane.
awesome.
So that is my, I mean, that is my major thing. Like I said, from when I was a little kid, 6 years old, my first airplane ride. But that's another
That's
story.
yeah, that'll be on your podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll open with that one or
Oh, yeah.
something. But just the things I've thought about in my life, like I always wanted to meet an Olympian. I've always liked sports. I can play in the different sports that I mentioned, and I can do well, but I've never excelled, so to speak, in any of them. But I always won a trophy of some sort,
Yeah.
not just the giveaway ones, but first or second.
Great
Yeah.
job. You showed up and participated today.
Right. Yeah,
Here's a
right.
sticker.
Yeah, no, don't. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Aw.
So, yeah, I've always been curious. And my mother had a saying she would tell folks that grass didn't grow under my feet. I'd never
Mm.
stood in one place long enough. Until I moved to Austin, I never lived anywhere more than 7 years, and I was over 50 when I moved here. So
Cool.
I've, been in quite a few places and things. I've just been fortunate, and I followed many different dreams I didn't even know I had.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like I'm projecting from my own like dream and the way that I come up with things, but it's like you pursue that curiosity and then you learn something there, and then all of a sudden something else opens up and you're like, oh, I want to try that. Is that how it is for you?
Yeah, exactly. Or things, like I said, that I wasn't even planning on. Things that I did plan on in my life that I had hoped happened, and they did. But other things, another thing that happened that I never thought would. My husband and I, we lived on a boat for
Oh,
five
that's
years.
cool.
That was just sort of an accident that happened and stuff. But it was like, okay, yeah, live on a boat. We weren't planning
Yeah.
on living on it for 5 years. We thought maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
So let life come at you and happen, and just go with the way it
Mm.
moves. Life is interesting. It really, really is
Yeah.
interesting.
So that
Yeah, but don't sit back and let it pass. Get out there and join the you know join the whatever you like, cooking, writing, sports, whatever it is. Enjoy your thing.
yeah. And do you think for I know like I always say that too, like just go and do it and let life come to you, but do you find that you have to do something in order for life to present an opportunity to you? Like you have to step out and pursue your curiosity? Do you sometimes just have to be open or
I think just be open to things. I probably haven't done every single thing that passed my way, but if it caught my eye or my attention, or I was forced, I've been
yeah,
unemployed. I was, at those times. I mean, my life hasn't been a straight line
yeah,
to this cool thing to that cool thing. It's been up, down, inside out, backwards,
yeah,
and yeah, those are whole other
yeah,
stories. Right now, we're pretty focused in on the good stuff. But no, life's kicked me in the face a few times, and you do have to take the time to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. That's what is part of life, also. And I think that helps you appreciate the other things that do come along. You just have to be aware, but it isn't always going to be good.
yeah. But it does help you appreciate the
you
good when it
know,
comes your way. So that's always
Yes,
nice.
yes. And that's what I focus on too. I mean, the other things were part of my life, but I don't dwell on those, as I learn from those.
Yeah. So have you ever
Yeah.
experienced moments where you felt stuck or stagnant? And
Oh
so
yeah.
what was that
Oh yeah.
like? Like, how do you get out of that? So for folks who are maybe in that position now,
Well,
like what could they do to maybe like move forward from that, do you think?
uh, know your friends that know you, that tell you the truth. Your friends that know you, or that can help you through those times. Friendships, really, that lifelong friendships. The other thing is therapy.
Therapy, yeah.
Therapy, yeah, and it takes a while to find. It took me a while, and most people I've talked to, it does, to find the right person to talk to about whatever your issue or situation may be, because we don't know it
Yeah.
all. We think we're the smartest person for ourselves to get through life. It's amazing what you can find out from people that write the books about helping yourself. The Alchemist. I learned a
Mhm.
lot from The Alchemist. I really love that book. From different therapists or writers, like Martha Beck. She wrote for Oprah Magazine, but she's a psychologist. And it's like, oh, I never thought of that. That's, maybe not everything fits for you, but it gives you knowledge to open the doors and move through those tough times in your life, for however they may be, with people, with jobs, it's never the end of the world.
Yeah, that's sometimes a reminder that we need because, yeah, I mean, I've been through those moments before where something happens and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to
My
do?
life
It's
is
like your
over. Yeah,
panic
no, right,
survival mode. And at the end of the day, it's like,
right.
wait, I have to remind myself that I've been through a similar situation like this before. And if not like similar, it's like I've been through challenges in my life and I've overcome those. And this is just another challenge that I will eventually overcome at some point. So it is like a really good
Yes,
reminder.
yeah. Like, but they raised my rent $50, and I was just a contract worker going paycheck to paycheck, and I go, I don't have $50 extra a
Yeah.
month to pay the rent. Now what do I do? And I got hired. I didn't know I was going to get
Yeah.
hired, and got a raise.
Oh,
So there
yeah.
it but I didn't know that was going to happen. I was
Yeah.
desperate, at the time. So anyway, just different things in life. Don't give up, refocus, and get help where you can.
Yeah.
A trusted friend, or a book, or a therapist, or somebody along that line that can just sort of refocus you. They're not going to solve your problems, but they're going to help you figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, that's very important is just to even look at who would you spend your time with? Like,
Oh,
that's a
definitely.
big
And
one.
the older I get, I'm more picky about who I spend
Oh,
my
yeah?
time with.
Yeah.
Well, because along the way, for me, it was sort of, I don't even know how to put it to words, but I just pay more attention now to. It's not that I don't, I don't like them or this that. I just, who I spend my time with is way more important when I'm at this side of, you know the lifespan. Is like, it's very precious to. That's why with you guys, it's so cool
Yeah.
that we met there at podcast class. The
Yeah.
five of us. Lee, I hadn't mentioned yet. Yeah, but Lee and you and Jen and Jessica and me, and we get together. We have happy hours.
Yeah.
We see each other once in, every 3 months or something like that. But we do. We get, and we're all different decades.
Yeah.
We're like little stepping stones.
Yeah.
So we all have different points of view, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It
cool.
is. I mean, and we've kept in
It's
it's
cool.
been what, like well, I mean, we were trying to figure this out
Yeah,
already, but it's
yeah.
been like a year or 2 that we've known each other. And
Uh
so
huh.
and that's really cool too
Mm-hmm.
because it's like regardless of how much time goes on where we don't see each other, we still are able to just reach out every once in a while and be like, "Hey, who's available? Let's plan something out." And then we all just we put it on the calendar, even if it's like a month out or a few weeks out. But we we really choose to try to spend time together. And I
Yes.
really do appreciate that. And I love the dynamics of our group because like you said, it's all the varying age ranges. And I love like sitting there and just observing and listening to
Mm-hmm.
everybody and where everybody is at within their own lifespan and what they're
Right.
experiencing. Uh, it's really
Right.
cool. Yeah.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I enjoy it a lot. It means a lot to me. Like when one of us, sends a text, okay, let's do it. Oh, like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yay. I'm up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool because even with the
Yeah.
podcasting thing, it's like we all have different levels of interest or
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say like abilities and how we can kinda like help each other and talk to one another. And it's just
Right. No,
it's
that's
just really
true.
cool how we encourage each other to do certain things or see things from a different perspective. Like oh yeah,
Right.
that's right. Like even at the most recent happy hour, we were talking about how you don't use periods after
Oh, I know.
oh my gosh.
No, period. I'm so like aware now. It's like I can't show my age, no periods.
Hi,
Or
period.
I'll go,
And
oh, screw it. Yeah. Screw it. I'm putting period in every sentence, It is. It's funny.
yeah.
And that's what I miss from not working is those type of conversations from about what's in and what isn't in because I don't know anymore. My dog doesn't tell
I
me,
know, Lucy.
what's.
You gotta keep up with the trends, Lucy.
Yeah, right. I got to keep up with the trend. What about,
Yeah. No, but
yeah,
it's true. I find that like,
yeah,
sometimes getting into social media and listening to what's in and what's not, I'm like, wait, what? What are they talking about? Like, what do you mean this is blah, 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 or that's canceled, or, like all these different
yeah.
things. But it just kind of goes to show that we need to learn from each other and understand each other's perspectives
Hmm.
because yeah, the
Right.
the high period, um, that's just a way of formulating a sentence and ending it. It's just like, "Hi." And then that's how it's
Right.
interpreted in one perspective, but for another, it could be like, "Hi, period." And it's kinda like an attitude or an
Yeah.
aggressive stance, but how would you know that,
Right.
Like text messaging and sometimes with social media, like I find that it takes away the emotion and then there's like a disconnect in that communication. Like there's a different tonality that somebody may perceive depending on their headspace at that time.
At that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Oh my
autocorrect,
gosh.
what word autocorrect put in there. And I'm going, I didn't
Yeah.
say that.
You're like, who is that? What do you mean?
That's what I mean. So yeah, no, texting and all that is very interesting. I mean, it's been around long enough. I figure, I
Yeah.
know what I'm doing and saying and that. So, but I'm careful at trying to make sure I proofread what I'm going to send, what I'm hitting send on,
Yeah. Right.
that the words are right, you
Yeah.
know. So, but I'd rather talk, obviously.
Yeah. It's easier. I mean, this is how we like build connection.
Yeah,
I understand where you're coming from.
in
Exactly. And
emotion.
emotion too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in your time,
Yeah.
do you think just kind of looking like at how really like the world has changed within your own life, do you think that there's something that we as a community or even for the younger generations that we can kind of focus on in trying to better and improve?
I think it goes back to what we just said is communicate with your
Mm,
voice. You know, texting and Facebook and TikTok and those are singular way, even though the world can
mm,
see it and hear it and that sort of thing. But be there for your friends, be there for your family in any way that you can, because life has gotten way more complicated than it had been when I was younger and growing up and going outside playing, and we didn't have computers and phones and blah 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 and all that sort of stuff. It was fun, you know. It wasn't perfect at all, but yeah, just be there more for people. I'm noticing it more on a good side of that when ever since COVID, which was horrible and really messed us up on being together, is that it seems that people are nicer now, that are forward facing to the public, where before you just sort of walk in, do your thing, and leave. There really wasn't hi, how are you, or have a good day, or any of that type of stuff. We were just trying to get out there and get home as fast as we could. So I've noticed lately that it's more fun and interesting just to even be out, when I do venture to wherever I have to go shopping, or the grocery store, or go to a restaurant. I mean, the waiter we had, Lamar,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was so cool at
Yep.
Chili's, you know he was really cool with us and stuff. And of course, to me, it was easy to remember his name because Lamar was
Yeah,
right down the street,
exactly. Yep.
the street and stuff.
Yeah.
But because what was the question we asked him?
Oh, great.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Jen yeah, Jen mentioned, like, her daughter she was at a restaurant or something with her daughter, and she addressed the waiter at that time by their name, and then her daughter was like, "Ew, don't do that. That's gross, or that's ick or something. Like, don't address them by the
right.
name." And Jen's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Why not? Like, they introduced themselves as with their name. Like, why shouldn't I call them that?" And so it's like that generational gap of like, should you say the name or not say the name? And then we ended up asking Lamar if it was okay or not, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, and that was coming from a high schooler's point of view too,
Yeah.
So her daughter, so, hey, Lamar, do you mind if we call you Lamar? No, call me. My name's
That's
right,
my name, you
So
know?
yeah. So it's like those sort of things, like we're talking about the period, and calling the period at the end of the sentence. And it's like if you're not out and about, you don't know those things. What's in and what isn't in at the moment. And it changes so fast. But what I've learned is that life's gotten tougher, you know. I think it seems like it was kinder when I was growing up,
Mm,
would be the word I'd
yeah.
use.
And do you think that is primarily because of technology? Or do you think there's other like levels to it?
Well, I think technology has a lot to do with it, but there's also a lot of people. And with a lot of people, there's a lot of
Mm,
opinions. And with a lot of opinions, there's a lot of,
mhm.
you know, stuff goes on. So I think it's a pressure. We're living closer and whatever, there's just so much more that could feed the point of being upset about rather than happy about.
Yeah.
If happy is a good word to use anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
you know,
definitely get that.
yeah.
It's almost like, I mean, going back to kind of the entertainment industry, it's like
Mm-hmm.
comedians that, they're getting attacked for saying something. And
Right.
some people, whether they're actually attached to the topic or not, or related to the topic or not, they get very
Right.
sensitive. And all of a sudden they're like, attack and cancel this comedian for saying
Right.
this and that. But like the whole point of comedy
Right.
is to make fun of certain stereotypes, or to make
Types.
fun of the
Mm-hmm.
like to bring out the elephant in the room, really,
In the room.
it's
Correct.
just like, yeah, these
Correct.
are certain thoughts
Correct.
that like people have and that people don't talk about, or are assumed in certain ways, and it's just like poking fun. And I get it,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a level to it where it can be malicious, but then at the same time it's like people just want to get offended and argue for
Mm-hmm.
any reason nowadays,
Yep.
it feels like.
Right. Well, that's, yeah, what I'm trying. I put on blinders anymore, or earplugs or something. I just sort of move along and take life as I care to see it and have it, and the people around me, like we were talking about earlier
Yeah.
too, picking who you hang out with or spend your time with. It's more precious. But so to your question, that's what I've seen through the
Mm.
decades now that I'm in the seventh.
And I love it because we get to learn from you. 'Cause, like, I think it's really important to have these conversations and to just be able to share knowledge and experiences. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
me, I like to learn from all sorts of people, regardless of like age or demographic and all of that. So I appreciate that you are even open to sharing like your experiences because not a lot of people are open to sharing their experiences. They like to keep private or
Mm.
they don't want to share because of, that fear of being criticized or judged. Or it's like, how could you have done that? And it's like, in that time, like it wasn't a big deal,
It,
you know?
it right at that time and space, yeah, whatever it may have been. And I grew up differently than most because I grew up in Hawaii before it was a state, and
Hmm.
I was a minority too.
Okay.
So I have a different point of view on things about people. I had a I loved it growing up over there. I mean, I had a great childhood and stuff, but I knew I was different, but I didn't feel different
Okay.
being Caucasian.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
cool though. Like, I mean, like I'm Puerto Rican and like I have a
Right.
lot of like
Right.
Caucasian friends and like I'm involved in a lot of things with a lot of Caucasians and like you, like I have felt different, but a lot of people have also accepted me for that. Like they don't necessarily see me as different and it's really nice to kind of be accepted. But again, it goes back to who you surround yourself with. Like
With
are
right.
they a good
Yeah.
community? Are they not? Are they helping to raise you and
Mm-hmm.
support you and love you, or are they putting you down? Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And where is their heart? Where does their heart come from? When it gets down to it, we're all human.
Mhm. Yeah. And how for you, how have you filtered through the kind of people that you wanna associate yourself to? For people who are trying to do that now or maybe even reassess their own relationships or friendships, what's what do you think would be some good insight for them to know when they're trying to determine, is this a yes person or a no person?
It usually feels right. It usually feels right. When I've made mistakes or spent too much time in the wrong place, I knew it, but I thought I was helping.
Mm,
I felt like I could be a helper, but that isn't where you should come from when you're finding relationships or friends or that sort of thing. You can help, but it needs to have a give and take type of, you got the people you surround yourself with. You need to be as the term I'm using now lately in my these years is a tribe. What tribe do I feel a part of? So without listing exactly, I like this, and this. I'm very open, but there are certain areas. It's like, okay, you go to your
yeah.
tribe.
This is not my tribe.
You're not part of
Gonna
my tribe,
leave.
So yeah, so you got to feel, you know, go with your intuition, and for whatever group you want to be with, whatever, that's fine. Be with yours,
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
know.
And I'm glad you were able to find your tribe here in Austin.
Me too, because Texas wasn't on necessarily a list because I
Yeah.
lived in California, I lived in Hawaii, California, Arizona, Vermont, all the four
Yeah.
corners, and then it was like I love Austin. And what I miss about being in the state here is mountains and ocean. And I mean, we have the Gulf and we have mountains far away, but I grew up surrounded like you on an island,
Mhm.
with beautiful water and gorgeous mountains and flora and fauna.
I know, I
So
miss it.
that's the one thing yeah, I miss that part. And there's something to be said about island life,
Yeah.
kick back.
Definitely. We'll have to take a
Yeah.
trip to Hawaii. I'm just,
Yeah,
throwing
right.
the
Well,
idea out there in the
everywhere.
universe,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
you can show me where you grew up.
Yeah.
More than happy to explore Hawaii
Well,
with you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we could do that. Yeah, no problem. No problem. In fact, just because we're on it, and I had this for a different reason, but this is what I looked like when I landed
Oh
in
my
Hawaii.
gosh,
And my mom and
that's
dad and I
awesome.
at the airport.
Wait, okay, so that's your dad, that's your mom, and then if you can pull out a little
Uh-huh.
bit, let me see. Oh, there you are, okay. Oh, look at
Oh, okay.
you. Oh, yeah, so y'all had flowers everywhere. You had it in your
Oh,
hair, you had
yeah.
the lace.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, that was in
Okay.
56.
Aw,
My mom all dressed up with her hat on. That's the way, the airplane was a prop. It wasn't even a jet. It took 12 hours to get over there,
okay.
and so on and so forth. But that's another story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I'd love to hear more of your stories, and I hope that yeah, I hope we can get your podcast up and running because I think we need
Yeah,
to gotta get it.
it'll come around. I mean, it'll work its way through, and so that'll be good. But yeah, I still have time to tell all the
Oh, yeah,
stories.
definitely. I know, I'm gonna be, like,
Yeah.
probing you and be like, "Hey, let's hear another one."
Right. It's fun for me
Yeah,
too.
right? I know. I think you're a great storyteller, and it's
Oh, thank
yeah, and
you.
it's really fun to just hear about all your different experiences because, there's a lot of people who are not maybe they haven't had the chance to go and explore an adventure
Right.
or maybe that's just not their personality type. And that's totally cool too,
Right.
but it's great to hear like the kind of things that you have been through because it's like, "Oh, wow, like that happened one time and like that was an
Mhm.
experience and that's
Mhm.
something just different and unique to hear from." So, I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I've had a good life, a fun life, and it's been a roller coaster. So yeah, it isn't all.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are other stories at other times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and that's what I like people to know that there everyone struggles. What you're going to tell a good story to tell a good story, or and they are, and they're fun, but there's struggles under there too
Yeah.
that happen to all. Take one day at a time.
Mhm.
When you get there, just take one day at a time.
Yeah.
You'll figure out how to pay the rent.
Yeah. Oh, and a random tip too, and I've done this and have succeeded. You can always write a letter to your landlord. And if you've been like pretty good, you can ask if they either cut your rent, like if they're increasing your rent, ask and just say, "Hey,
Hmm.
can you cut that in half? Like cut the increase in half? Or is it possible to not
Right.
increase my rent this year?" And sometimes they'll do it. And that's happened. They did
Right.
that for me this year. I think last year or the year before, I asked them to see if they can cut it in half, and they did that. So sometimes just asking
Great.
actually helps.
Right. Well, and that's another good piece of advice for anybody is don't give yourself a no, ask. Let them give you the no. Well, they're going to tell me no, I don't want to ask them about this or that. No, 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 no. Ask them. Let them tell you no, or maybe, or whatever it may be. So that's another good way to look at things in our lives is don't put yourself as don't pick on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something, yeah, we definitely have to apply more of is just ask. Just,
Just ask because you don't know what they're going to say, and it may really
yeah.
surprise you. And if they say no, well, then they said no.
Yeah.
That's what you already assumed, so you're not surprised by it.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And if they say no, well, then continue and do whatever else.
Gone, right.
Yeah. Pat, I
Uh,
guess as we wrap things up, are there any last words that you would like to share with our listeners slash viewers if I publish this video or eventually publish the video?
um, yeah, just enjoy your life, take it for what it is, up, down, backwards, forwards, and just keep trying. We didn't get an instruction book on our lives. We'd have to choose the days and what comes out of them and make them good. Just enjoy yourself. as much as you can under the circumstances. And you can add in there the LoneStarCurlingClub.org in
Yeah.
case they want to go learn to curl.
Yeah, just go try something different. I like curling was cool.
Yeah, do something different. Yeah, or go watch, find out when the leaks are. There's plenty of room where you can be upstairs and watch what's going on if you've always just wanted to see a curling match.
Yeah, I'll see if maybe one of these days I'll link up with you, and then I could be the spectator and be like, "Go, sweep, sweep." I mean, don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm saying. I know, right? The sweeper's like, "Shut up. Who is this person messing up the match right now?"
No, that would be good for you though, from Puerto Rico. I mean, I'm from Hawaii and learned to curl. You're from Puerto Rico and
I know,
learned
the
to curl.
island girls.
Island girls. We could have a team.
Yeah, there you go. That could be cool.
Just make fun. Yeah. Good. Well, thank you, Denise. I'm so glad you're doing this. Yeah. It's great. Great. And keep up your good stuff going out there as a survivor camper, fishing for your food person.
Yeah, all my wildlife tracking. And yeah, I definitely, I'm going to continue that, being part of the wild and out in the wild. It's just, I need that. It's just very refreshing and rejuvenating to be like out in nature and just disconnected. And yeah,
it is.
I love it.
It is. No, nature's wonderful.
Yeah. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to join and to share one of your stories. Well, like a few of your stories. I got a few.
Yeah, a couple here and there.
But I'll definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more of your stories. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed and, knocking on wood to get that podcast up and going for you, because I think it would be great. So if anybody out there is interested and has experience in podcasting and wants to help Pat out, that would be awesome too. So maybe that's like a shout out into the universe to help with that process.
Yeah, there you go. That's what happens. Yep. Manifest destiny. Put it out there.
And to our listeners out there, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us and open up your ears and listen to Pat's wonderful stories. Until the next one, have a good one, y'all.
Take care.